I think I was denying that I had an issue. Something was not working for me. Nothing is easy in life. I was just feeling trapped, honestly. That eventually could have took me to death maybe one day. It was a horrible time. It's gonna be with me my whole life. It was necessity and desperation.
Ellie, welcome.
Thank you.
We're finally here.
Yes.
We finally made it.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So thank you so much for, first of all, accepting the offer to come on the podcast. I know it was very last minute, but you're here now. So thank you so much. Let's start off by getting to know who Ellie is and what brings you to this podcast.
Well, I'm Elisabetta Torretti. As you can hear from my accent and from my look and perhaps my name, as you already know, I'm very Italian. I was born and raised in Italy in a small village in the middle of nowhere. But 11 years ago, I made the choice to leave that, let's say, comfort zone and move to the UK. Since then, I moved to the UK, moved to Spain, then moved back to the UK and work in different industries, different roles, starting from fashion to fintech to e-commerce and then purely SaaS businesses, so purely SaaS startup and scale-ups. Covering different roles. I started actually in product and then eventually went into sales leadership. And then eventually I actually started my own company, which is Mint & Lemon. So this is a nutshell about myself and my life so far.
Oh, amazing. Well, first of all, congratulations on Mint & Lemon.
Thank you.
You're doing amazingly. We've been seeing you on social media, and it's just amazing to see your growth in general. Obviously, you and I know each other since a very long time. We go way back. Maybe you can touch on that as well, how the whole thing started and what you were doing. For anybody who doesn't know, you were obviously a part of Plum for a very long time since inception. And maybe if you can actually touch on that journey within Plum and how that led to Mint & Lemon.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it was a beautiful journey. I started as employee number 6, I guess, in the company. So it was, I would have never thought that we would start in the journey and then we would be there after 4 years. But I started as employee number 6 and I started building the whole sales department under me and moving the company from a B2C to a B2B2C and then eventually from a B2B space. And then eventually headed the sales department and then eventually headed as well the customer success department. I think no one understands the whole startup vibe and the whole startup environment until and unless you actually get to work in a startup, especially this early stage startup. So it has been a beautiful journey for me, very painful one for everyone that in general joins a startup, but such a beautiful one. And I spent the past 4 years actually working closely with you, with the team. It has been amazing. Like the growth that I had, the mentorship that I had from you, especially, like it has been mind blowing. And the growth that I had, not only like work-wise, but also personally, it has been exponential. Like honestly, it's been the most amazing work experience of my life, but not because of the work and the things I learned actually day in and day out, but as well as because I work with amazing people. And I think one thing that I miss the most actually is that feeling of community, that feeling of actually being part of that amazing team. That has been an amazing experience. And, and I will always cherish those 4 years. And actually, I think are those 4 years that actually took me to where I am now and really working in different startup and scale ups, like from the past actually 7 years. Took me where I am now, where I've been very closely working with founders of companies. And when I really felt the pain in terms of founders and that whole scaling the company. And until and unless I think you really are there, you don't understand how hard it is. So I kind of decided to choose my heart. I always felt I wanted to do something myself. I always felt like I wanted to start my own business, but never really had the gut as well to do it because again, it's very hard and very painful. But at some point I felt like, and we had this conversation before, I felt like I want to start something new. And then I thought that again, because working very closely in the past 4 years with you and with the whole team, I think it took me also to another place and to another trajectory. And it really helped me actually to take this decision of, okay, now I have the base to start something myself. And perhaps if I would have never joined Plum, maybe I would have never started my own business. Probably 99% that would have been the case. And if I've been in a corporate and everything, I would be maybe too comfortable in that position and never take that, that initiative. But here where I am now I actually started my own company, Mint and Lemon, and it's a beautiful journey so far. Painful again, but a beautiful one.
That was a very strategic question by me, by the way. No better way for me to add a plug to Plum. So thank you so much sponsor. For that. Yeah, this is probably the first and the last time I'll be able to do that. So I took my opportunity. But anyway, thank you so much for that. But I really wanted to get into the mind of Ellie. So how did it all start? Obviously, I know, a few things about you. For instance, you didn't speak the language, you didn't speak English a couple of years ago. And if we can just backtrack who Ellie is and what led to, why you in the country, why you in the UK, the move from Italy to UK, but also actually starting a little bit before that, if you can start, how your upbringing was, how your childhood was. And, I think it's quite interesting when people move from different countries. There's a need, perhaps there's a pain. You becoming an entrepreneur, we're going to come to that later on as well. But I'm just trying to find if there's any correlation between, how the start of your life journey was to your business journey. So I'm just trying to add that link. So if you can just tell us, how your upbringing was in Italy, how did that look like? Picture that for me.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I had an amazing, life in Italy. Like I have an amazing family. I've never had anything missing, being completely honest. I had such a loving family, such a close relationship. But my problem, and one thing that actually my family always gave me and my sister, is freedom to do anything I wanted to experiment or anything I wanted to do. So that I think was really helpful throughout my whole, childhood and adolescence and everything. So they never gave us like boundaries of like, no, you should not be doing that. No, you should not be traveling. Especially traveling was a really big part of my family. Even if, like a small trip of like a 2 days, something like that would happen somehow. So I think that was really enriching for me. The problem is that although like everything was amazing and, Italy is beautiful. It's perhaps, everyone says perhaps the most beautiful country in the world.
Are you not being biased now?
No, not being biased, okay. Of course. Okay, we have the best food and everything, But I always felt that reality was always too tight for me. I always felt I was not fitting in. I always felt like, when sometimes when you're a kid, you're like, okay, what do I want to be when I'm going to be like a grown up? Or what do I want to be like? And I would have never imagined myself somehow there. Like I would always feel like a blurry vision of my future somehow, because I could never imagine myself there. And there are different reasons why. So first, I think, like I was also bullied when I was at school, and a lot of kids get bullied, and kids can be very mean, unfortunately. But I was heavily bullied because, I was not the skinniest girl in school or anything. So that was one thing. Like physically, somehow, maybe I wasn't fitting that criteria, especially in the 90s, actually was not just, in Italy, but all over the world of like, being super skinny and everything. But then, like I then starting actually having like severe eating disorder. So I started having like around like 19, when I was 19 years old, I started developing severe eating disorder that took me on a 10 years, like roughly journey of eating disorders. And that I think a lot of people see eating disorders as, oh my God, that person wants to be skinny. Oh my God, that person doesn't like themselves like physically. That's just a manifestation. That's just a symptoms of something deeper going on. So that was perhaps my symptom of something is not right in my life. And that's why I was going through those challenges. And eventually, like I developed this old eating disorder. I didn't know because it was not like the most common eating disorder like anorexia or bulimia that everyone kind of knows about. So I was also feeling like, oh my God, something is so wrong with me because no one else I felt like had that same issues. But then I started Googling my symptoms and then started realizing like actually it is a real thing. And like other people in the world are going through the same situation. And then I basically gave myself a diagnosis, which is something that I don't think people should be doing in general. But that was my lifesaver, because I then realized, okay, now I know what the problem is. And now I know that I can actually tackle that problem. So then since then, I then tried different therapies, didn't work out, unfortunately. But then because my sister is a clinical psychologist, so actually, she referred me to a really great therapist, and since then, basically, since that day, I was on therapy for like 2 years. Every single Monday, 4 p.m., I would be on therapy. The only break was like the Christmas break and the summer break, and the summer break was just 1 month. But every single Monday, literally for 2 years, that was my routine, and that saved my life. That really saved my life, because if I didn't have that, like, I don't think I would be here, wherever I would be in the country, or actually I would be physically here in this world. Eventually therapy was not also the only solution, but eventually I had to go into medication because it got to an extent where things were unbearable, honestly. And I was on medication like for perhaps like 4 years. And that again saved my life. I'm a bit weird about medication because sometimes I feel some people are just giving maybe medication just to, push the symptoms down without going to the core, the roots of the cause. But I think in some situation you really need medication. In some situation there is also talk therapy. But again, I'm not the doctor. But for me, honestly, having the combination of the two, it really helped me and it really saved my life. That was the lowest point. And again, when it's an eating disorder, I think eating disorder are really connected to addiction. Like for me, I see like this like pyramid, like eating disorder, addiction, and OCD, that I think are like a trio that I think it's pretty dangerous. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous because as I see it myself, again, not talking from like, from an expert point of view, but talking from someone that has been going through that, I see it as you're addicted to food somehow. But it's a very different addiction from any other addiction that you have, because when you're addicted to alcohol, you can actually cut alcohol out of your diet. When you're addicted to, drugs, you can cut out those drugs out of your everyday life. But when you're or like smoking, for example, when you're addicted to food, you can cut food. Like it's, you live eating, So it's the hardest thing because again, you need to rebuild that relationship. And again, like I would wake up it got to such an obsessive point that I would wake up in the morning and I would just think about my calorie count. And if I would go 20 calories like above my what I thought it was my routine and everything, like my day would be destroyed. And I would just focus on that. And eventually did not get, like, I could not function basically on the day to day. And that's why then I decided to, embark with the whole medication, but of course, monitored by like doctors and everything. And that again saved my life. So I think after that, then throughout these actually challenging times, I also felt that like something was not working for me. And again, like things happen for a reason. So at that point I was 25 and I was supposed to choose between, I had job offers from like really good companies in Italy and everything. And then I had one unpaid job offer to come to the UK. And of course I got the unpaid one because I was like, let's take the hardest route. Why not? So I got the unpaid one and then I moved here and I moved to the UK. And that's, that's the, I think this hardship really helps you build up a level of resilience that then, no matter what you're going through in life, eventually you still have that base. You're not starting from here, you're starting from here. So your resilience is so much higher. And that honestly, it was a horrible time, but it really helped me in the past like 11 years.
Wow, that's That's amazing. Before we come into, your second half of your life in the UK, I'd like to go back, during that hardship and the eating disorder phase. I've been through a lot of struggle in my life as well. I've been into therapy as well, so I can perhaps relate a little bit. But I'd just like to understand the support system. I'm just trying to understand, how old were you at that time? And, even today, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. And this, I'm guessing, is a couple of years ago. What was your support system? You just said your sister was a clinical psychologist. So I'm guessing, obviously, she understands the space. I'm guessing your family also then perhaps supportive. But then was that limited to your family, the support system? Because I'm just thinking, and again, I don't know what age you were, so it'll be nice if you can touch on that. But did your friends understand what you're going through? Because I'm just thinking, at that age also, do you really understand what's going on? So if you can just, the support system and your friends and your peers, and how did that all manifest?
So first of all, it's a taboo topic. So at that time, especially, you would never talk to anyone about you going on therapy. No one knew actually. So the only people that knew about it was my close family members. So my mom, my dad, and my sister. I had my flatmate that knew it because, of course, she would see me every week taking a train, 2 hours train, going back and forth. And, so she knew it, of course. And a really close friend of mine. And that's it. No one else knew it. Because again, at that time, now things change after COVID. We know the awareness about mental health and everything, it's on another level. But there was not even an awareness about these other, for example, eating disorder. And that's why the awareness at that time was very low. So my two friends were really supportive. My family were extremely supportive, even from an economical side. Paying one therapy session per week for 2 years for at that time also is more or less the same price as of now, because I was going through a really good doctor as well and everything. It's very expensive. Plus helped me. I was at uni, so plus helped me paying for train tickets and everything. It was very expensive for them, and they've always been supportive, and they never question anything. For them, it was no matter what it takes, you just go. But again, because it was a very taboo topic, you can't really talk about it. It's a ush, you can. But no matter what, I still had my family with me, that would support me throughout the whole process.
So there's so much stigma, you can't talk about it. And there's so much pain that you're going through just to get the service delivered or the support delivered to you as well, because you're saying you're traveling for 2 hours back and forth or one way. I don't even know. Was it one way or?
No, one way.
1 way, 2 hours. So 4 hours a day you're traveling, an hour therapy session. That's 5 hours every single week for 2 years. So you're already going through pain, and then you're going through so much more pain just to get the support. Why do it in the first place? Why did you get support? What sort of a situation were you in to put yourself into that much more pain to get support?
I think it's desperation, honestly, because at some point, that nothing else worked and there is no other solution. You're in such a low point that there's no other option. You just need to get help. Otherwise, things, actually, there's no even worse. The worst is literally the worst, literally. So actually now thinking when it started and everything. So I started having my first symptoms when I was 19, but I think actually I don't remember exactly the timing, but I think I actually went to therapy when I was maybe 22, 23. So I stayed more than a couple of years actually without getting any support. Because I think not that I didn't have the support system, I think I was denying that I had an issue. Mm-hmm. I thought that everything was normal. I thought that everything was okay. And so I didn't understand that actually there was a real issue. I thought it was a me issue, mm-hmm. not something actually, hey, it's a mental illness. And I don't know if you know, but eating disorders are the cause number one of actually death for any mental illness. So the mortality rate also is extremely high, especially for anorexia. But yeah, I never thought I needed help until actually I got to a point where like, this is unbearable. Like I cannot function. And I was studying, I was at university at the time, and I was studying law, and law is extremely demanding, as you know. So I was literally like studying from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day, weekends included, like for 5 years. And I could not bear it anymore. Like it was impossible. So it was necessity and desperation, I believe.
Yeah, wow. I mean, definitely you were really fortunate, obviously, because you had someone who understood the space within the family. And I mean, it's also really fortunate for your family to be able to provide the means for you to be able to get that support as well. So, I mean, that's just, a lot of people sadly do not have that support. A lot of people go through that pain, perhaps don't have an opportunity to see the light from a perspective where, because there's lack of awareness. Even, I mean, you spoke about COVID, which is, yeah, I mean, the demand or the conversation around mental health has just, taken a different light altogether. But I mean, still there are a lot of people who don't have that exposure or that support system. So yeah, that's just amazing that you did have that support. And just now the shift to the UK, where you and I have spoken about this as well. Your family then being your support pillar to then helping you make that shift also. So if you can just talk about that, but please also touch on, because that's really fascinating for me, how you didn't speak the language, and also, so how did that happen? How the hell did you learn a new language? I would love to know from my own perspective. I struggle to learn any new language. So is there any tips or tricks? But anyway, so touching on that, and why the UK?
So first of all, as you speak, I think 3 languages overall. So you're very
well, true, but also the age matters.
Yeah.
So if I were to learn a new language today, that's going to be next to impossible for me. So it's not that you knew the language whilst you were growing up or taught in school or your family. So obviously that's different.
So yeah, I think it's harder, of course, when you learn the language later down the line, basically when you're older and everything. But the easiest part is actually if you live in the country. So that's why I got to learn English, because I moved actually in the country, and I got to learn Spanish because I actually moved eventually in Spain and lived there for a while. So the problem with the Italian schooling system, if we want to put it that way, that I think all my fellow Italians are aware of, is that you're very much taught of basic English in school, like hi, hello, how are you, fine, thanks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's it.
Any swear words?
No, that of course not. That you only learn them in the songs, you know. So,
in the real world, you learn it.
Yes. But so that's the basic that they teach you.
Do you know any swear words now, though?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Do you know any?
So you haven't perfected English yet.
Oh no.
Okay.
That I still say in Italian.
Okay,
know?
Fine. Okay, fine.
But yeah, so that's the basic English that they teach you. Then anything else, it's up to you. And if you want to, live abroad or anything you want to do, maybe school exchange thingy and everything. Otherwise, at least from my experience, I cannot speak for the whole Italy, honestly. But from my experience, and I see all my friends actually from my hometown and everything also, they have the same issue. So either you do it yourself or that's it. So I think it's when I was like a teenager. So I started thinking, okay, there are 3 issues. So at that time I was super into Harry Potter, and I loved the books. I really loved the books. But I always was waiting for the new book to come, and the new book was always in English, and then it would be translated in Italian, but then maybe it would come 6 months or 1 year after. And I was like, wow, I need to wait so long to get the book translated. So I was like, okay, let me buy. And I think it was either the 4th or the 5th book. Let me buy it in English. I'll buy it in English. I'll order it 2 months earlier. I don't know. Then it arrived. Then I started reading the first page. I was like, and with vocabulary, with the dictionary and everything next to me. And then I was like, oh, I just can't pass like the first page, literally. The first page is a struggle. How am I going to read? And that was, I think, like a thick book. Like, how am I going to read, I don't know, 400, 500 pages? Like, this is not doable. So that's one thing. So I started struggling with that. Second thing, I was like, okay, like love-wise, why, like, am I supposed to one day to have a partner that can only speak Italian? Like the oyster is my, like the word is my oyster. Like, how am I supposed to just have relationships only with people that speak my own language and ignore completely the whole, the whole outside world? Like, something is just doesn't seem right, basically. And the third problem, I used to love Queen, the group, and I used to like listen to their songs, and I was so beautiful. But I used to listen to the song, and I used to not understand anything. And I was like, yeah, the melody is amazing, the words might seem good, but like I don't understand. So then I started doing translation of like songs, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But every song I listen to in English I just don't understand anything. I was like, this is three major issues. Like, what can I do? So I always said, then for my 18th birthday, I remember I asked her as a birthday present, okay, I want a trip to London. And I came, and I was in this little town outside of London. I came also to London, and I was mesmerized. And that was the first time I came outside of my hometown, country and everything. And I felt, wow, I feel home. Like somehow I feel I don't want to go back. Not that I don't want to go back because I don't love my family. I love my family, to bits. But I felt like, wow, like this is a new life. Like, it's amazing. Something is like I feel my heart can be here. Like, my heart can be here. So that was it. Then I went to uni and everything, and uni was in Italy and everything. And there was no opportunity then to come and everything. But then somehow, like, I was like, when I was 25, I was like, again, this is like, I feel I love the country. The country is amazing. The people, like Italy, it's an amazing country. It's amazing people, amazing everything. But I feel there is more I want to explore. I feel there is more out there. Let me see what's out there.
Better food, especially.
Well, depends what cuisine. Depends. But again, like, I love actually trying a lot of different foods from all over the world. When I go out, I actually never go and eat Italian because I can cook Italian myself. Unless it's pizza, it's easier to get it out. But I actually love to try new food, new taste, like, it's amazing because this city is a melting pot of culture, is a melting pot of people. It can offer you so much and you'll never get bored. And that's why I was in love with this city from day one. Like, I always felt there is such an attraction. And even though, like, I know we might talk later on, but like, even though I was in the UK, then I moved to Spain, but then I decided to move back to the UK because the grass is always greener, you say. But then when you actually decide to move back to that country that is, again, not your country, there must be a reason. And my heart was always somehow like taking me here. And yeah, that's a bit of the story. And that's when I came here, I had to start learning because, again, I only knew how to say hi, hello. But in a work environment, I mean, speaking a bit of like a few words, but in a proper work environment where you have to write, proper like corporate emails and everything. Oh my God, Google was my best friend. Then Grammarly was my best friend. And I didn't know. I remember I was going out with my first colleague that actually she became like one of my best friends here. And I remember we were going out for like lunch break. We were going on this park in front of the office, and she's like, "Do you want to sit on the bench?" I was like, "Bench?" And she's like, "Bench." She was indicating the bench. I was like, bench. Now I was like, okay, I learned a new word. But it was such a big struggle. And I would always, of course, it was always misunderstanding. And everyone was laughing because of my misunderstanding, of course. But at the end, actually, it helped me as well, like making new friends. And again, those funny stories will always stay, with you throughout your life and will be part of the journey. And that's the beauty of it. But yeah, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that. It was very hard, very hard.
It's very interesting for me. And this is the first time we talk about the three specific points that you spoke about. Do you think there's a correlation between your your eagerness to move out of the out of Italy and move to the UK. Because what's really interesting to me and what really stood out is the 3 points you spoke about. You spoke about the Harry Potter. You spoke about, love life, partner, and then you spoke about Queen. So the way I look at it from an entrepreneurial mindset is you found, so strategically, so you had a strategy in place, you had problem, you identified the different verticals of the problem, and then obviously the solution was the move. So the first problem, I think, was the delay in you getting the product or the service. The second was limiting yourself to the 5-mile radius for you to, when you're hiring talent, for example, these days, the world has changed. People work remotely. You're not limited to your 5-mile radius anymore. And then lastly, I feel it's a value proposition. So the value that you were getting out of the music was not as deep as you could have got. So it's really interesting. Do you feel anyway, this is just my interpretation of, but do you feel there's a correlation between your reasoning to now you being an entrepreneur yourself?
I think perhaps yes. I never thought about it, but I think that's a very good that's a very good point. Actually, I never thought about it. I think 100%. Like everything that you described is perfect, but again, the eagerness to actually wanting more. And I think as an entrepreneur, you somehow always want more. Not more in terms of monetary value, because at the end of the day, money should not be your currency, your end goal, but just wanting more and want to give more as well. Because I was like, okay, if I don't know this language, I'm going to be so trapped in life. I cannot get more and I cannot give more. So I was just feeling trapped, honestly. And maybe I always had that idea of entrepreneurship somehow like solving problems, because I remember one thing. So I remember when I was 6, I actually, so I created my first contract. Not sure if you had this conversation before, but I created my first contract. So, and that's maybe also why I went into law also after, I don't know. But so during summer, so me and my sister, we were like, my mom would force us to sleep in the afternoon because it was too hot in Italy. So you have to sleep a couple of hours. I hate sleeping in the afternoon. Like even now, I just hate the naps. So me and my sister, we were playing and she's like, okay, why don't you do this like hand massage for me? And she's like, I'll pay you. Of course, she never paid me. So again, she would not pay me. I mean, she's, my biggest sister, so she was taking advantage of me. She would never pay me. So I was like, okay, now I'll make you sign a contract. You sign it, so then you have to pay me, I don't know, 20 liras or something like that. She's like, okay, sign the contract. So I created the whole contract, like, on a piece of paper, writing, everything. And she signed the contract. Again, I did massage and everything. She would never pay me back, of course. Then I was like, okay, something is wrong. So we need somebody that is actually witnessing that she signed the contract and she's guaranteeing that she's going to pay for it. What better person than my mom? So I asked my mom to be the guarantor basically on the contract. So I remember I would add a note on the bottom of the contract, say, Mom, you're the guarantor of this contract, because of course in very, lay words or anything like that, like, okay, now you need to basically contribute to this whole thing and she needs to pay me. So my mom would sign, sign. And of course she didn't pay me anymore. But I remember I always had a bit of that thing of fixing the problem and wanting more. And also, if a situation would piss me off, I just wanted to get it fixed somehow. I didn't want it to just sweep it under the carpet, which didn't work out with my sister. I think she still has a debt with me. But is that that finding that obstacle and not having the opportunity to move forward, and you're like, okay, I want to break that obstacle. I just don't want to jump it. I just want to break it. And yeah, maybe I didn't know, but maybe since then. But I also was lucky in a way that from my dad has always been an entrepreneur himself. He always had his own business, I think, from the age of 18. So maybe I also see a lot of his struggles in terms of on that space of the, the ownership that you need to take when it comes to, the good and the bads. But at the same time, maybe subconsciously, it inspired me to actually one day to have my own thing. But I would have never thought that at this age I would get it. I always thought like, okay, maybe later, because maybe I'm not ready now. Maybe I don't have everything, I don't have my shit together, basically, I don't have everything like lined up. Maybe I don't know enough. But then I was like, life is too short. If I don't do it now, I'll never do it maybe. So that's how it started.
Finding a problem, trying to solve a problem, I think everything is easier said than done. So, I think the easier route really is to, if there's a problem, just, brush it under the rug. Again, now just backtracking to, the struggles that you went through with the eating disorder and the therapy sessions that you were in and how difficult it was to get the support at that time. Do you think, again, is there a link between you having that need to then not brush it under the rug and actually try and solve the problem, go through the hard route? Do you think there's any link between them?
100%. Like, I think you choose your hard, and I always choose the hardest, apparently, the hardest way. But 100%, because again, you can, like what I see in life, you can always try to brush, to brush the problems out and to put them under the carpet, but eventually will always, come to surface again. So I just want to face realities. No matter how hard it can be, no matter how harsh it can be, but I just want to face the problem, understand what is the problem, name it if you need to name it, and then going through it, and then just going through that. And at that time, I would have never thought that actually I would be out of the eating disorder. Honestly, I was so much into it. They're like, wow, this is gonna be with me my whole life. Like, I was thinking, how can I function in 10 years? How can I function with my friends, with my partner, with my family? Like, it's impossible. But eventually I got through it. And I was like, okay, if I got through that, what's the worst that can happen? That eventually could have took me to death maybe one day. Okay, what's the worst that can happen now? So I think that point helped me to actually then have that jump of, okay, let's move to another country. Let's move to another country again. Let's move back to that country. Let's start a career with somewhere that I know nothing about. Let's restart a career in somewhere I don't know nothing about, and in different industries and different countries, and a business now. So yeah, at the end, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. What is the worst that's going to happen? And I also believe that everything happens for a reason, and ultimately, whatever happens only happens for your own good. Trusting the process is super important, but it's also very difficult. How would you think that has brought you to where you are today? Trusting the process, but also going through that entire journey.
I think, again, because when you reach the rock bottom, you know that there is nothing else underneath. So I was like, okay,
Would you say then you were forced to trust the process?
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice?
I think I was forced to trust the process. Like, I didn't trust the process at that time, but I was forced to it, as you rightly say. Then I started trusting the process. Then I started believing, okay, everything happens for a reason. But at the beginning, you see everything gray, everything bad, everything negative. And I changed myself as a person. So I started like as a very insecure person. I do have my insecurity. I do have my, everything. But eventually you start also getting more comfortable in your skin again. Eventually you start understanding that your path is not a linear, cannot be a linear journey. Like, things might go wrong, things might not fall into places, But eventually everything again happens for a reason, and eventually everything comes to place. And everything that happened negative in the past, so when I had when I was in the wrong workplace, when I had the wrong boss for me at that time, of course, but everything happened for a reason. And for example, I remember I had a very toxic boss many years ago, but I now understand how I should not be as a manager, how I should not be as a founder of a company. So actually that was a blessing, that experience. And it also made me realize my own mistakes, because sometimes you're just quickly trying to accuse the other person. Oh, it's all about you. No, like anything that, if in any relationship, whatever it is with your partner, whatever it is with your manager, whatever it is with your peers or with your family, if there's something that goes wrong, it's always like a shared responsibility. Whatever is, 70%, 30% or 50-50 or 60-40, but it's always a shared responsibility. And I think that accountability, when you're young, sometimes you're trying not to take it. But eventually, the more you mature, the more you understand that you have your own say in that situation. And if you did not say, then it's also your fault. Or if you did not action certain things, you're also responsible for it. And that taught me a lot.
A lot of people base their life situations on circumstances, on luck, opportunities that they perhaps don't have. You're talking about accountability. That's really interesting. So what would you say to that? Because, it's also, again, difficult to take accountability when you have a toxic boss. What do? You're doing everything right.
I think luck doesn't exist. I think it's a completely wrong concept. I used to believe in luck when I was oh my God, I'm so unlucky. I was like, no, this is all BS, honestly. I believe...
You can say bullshit if you want to.
Bullshit, okay. I believe lucks come maybe the place you're born, because I've been very fortunate to be born in a very privileged country, in a very privileged family. And, there are other third world countries, of course, that, people will not have the same chances as of me. But you also see from those countries a lot of actually great entrepreneurs coming actually out, which is amazing. So from struggles, you still see those people actually thriving. But again, I've been very fortunate to be born in that country. But then you create your own luck, let's say. You create your own luck. That's luck. There's no luck if you don't put the effort. There's no luck if you don't put the tears, the blood, and your whole time. There's no luck. You create your own thing. And yeah, it's all about putting the hard work. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in anything coming, Again, everything happens for a reason. So some things are out of your control. But you can control what you can control, and you need to be controlling what you can control, and you need to be actioning on that side. So yeah, I don't believe in luck.
Taking on action, you moved to the UK, and then you moved to Spain, and then you moved back to the UK. You were in love with Harry Potter. You loved Queen. You loved everything about this country. But then why did you leave?
It's a very interesting question. I think, again, the grass is always greener. So sometimes you think that maybe moving to another country like Spain, the weather is better. The food might be more similar to your Mediterranean food. The people might be more similar to, because again, Mediterranean, and maybe the day-to-day life might be different. And especially, we all know London is a very expensive city. And, when you're a very entry-level salary, the struggles are, higher. You know better than me on that side. But yeah, so I thought that I didn't want to have the life of commuting every single day to the office, doing my 9 to 5 and going back, and just having that robot life. I think that would really scare me. That was really scaring me. Not the city. I love the city, but just that routine I felt very scared of that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be trapped. I'm going to be just looking forward to the next salary raise, but I'm not going to be maybe enjoying my job and everything. Because again, I didn't know better. So I didn't know that actually there's so many much better jobs out there, more exciting. There is now, I mean, nowadays, especially after COVID, you don't have to commute every day to the office and spend 1 hour back and forth, actually 2 hours per day, maybe commuting, but you can have the flexibility of, yes, seeing people, seeing your colleagues, but also working from home, working from different places. And I think the flexibility is gold, literally. Especially me having my family in Italy, where I can also sometimes travel and work there. But again, also, I think maybe it's the whole imposter syndrome that comes to play with you, because at the beginning of my career, I was always told like your English will never be good enough to have a great job, to have a very high, high corporate job or something. And I remember one MD actually told me that, and he literally told me, like, basically he told me off in between the lines because he thought that I was not making an effort to learn English enough. And he told me, you see, my daughter went to Spain. She's now learning Spanish and she's thriving. She's like, basically, what are you doing? Yeah, you can't even speak, you're speaking broken English. And I still remember to this day this conversation. And it was really painful for me, because when you hear people around you, you hear a lot of people trying to, lift you up and everything. But then you have all these like negative people around you saying you're never going to be good enough because your English is not good enough. You can make, I will never speak as a native. Let's be very honest. Mm-hmm. But I didn't understand at that time that...
You do have a British accent, though.
We always joke about this British accent, that I can never have a British accent, let's be honest.
Never say never.
Although I'd love to, but also this is me again.
Of course.
So this is my uniqueness, But at that time, I didn't understand. So at that time, so that's why... And on that same day, though, I moved to Spain, because I received one job offer to move to Spain, but on the same day, I also received 2 job offers to stay in London with 2 great companies. One is a huge multinational. But I still went to Spain because I wanted to try maybe a new country. I was like, okay, I'm still young. I want to try a new country. I wanted to learn a new language, yes. But also maybe subconsciously, I thought I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not good enough. And maybe, you have always that saboteur. And maybe I thought, okay, let's change country. Let's move somewhere else. Because it's painful when people tell you, you're not good enough. You're never going to be working as a manager or as a leader. I was like, okay, what can I do? And that, I think, played in my mind. Then I stayed in Spain. I thought that I would stay 1 year. I would stay 1 year. I stayed 4 years and a half. So that was a long shot. So I worked there for a company. Then I actually then started working remotely in 2017 for another company based in the US. At that time, everyone was saying, you'll never find a remote job. You never find a remote job. I found a remote job. And now guess what is the norm? And at the time of my life, but then at some point I was like, I want more. And I knew that I could have more here in the UK. And that's why then in 2019, I decided to move back. So that's a bit of the journey. And then 2019, I joined a startup, and then March 2020, I actually then eventually joined Plum, stayed there for 4 years. And then in March, now 2024, I then started my own company. So that was the whole journey. But it was a lonely journey. It was not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, obviously. I mean, leaving your family, friends behind, coming to a country and then going to another country, then coming back to the country, definitely pretty lonely. But I'm sure you made friends, hopefully, along the way, and some relationships that you perhaps remember and nourish. But why then come back to the UK? Why didn't you then, expand your horizons and then just went somewhere else? I mean, you could have gone to the US, you could have gone to Australia, you could have gone to anywhere else.
No, because I knew that the UK was my place. So I knew that the UK was an English-speaking country, that I wanted to go back there. But also economically at that time, and I still believe as of now, even with the whole economical downturn and everything, it's still the strongest economy in Europe. So I wanted to be in a place where economically I could have like a good future, but also where tech-wise, it was a great hub. And at that time, and as of now, still London is the biggest startup tech hub in Europe. There's no other country. There's no other city. And I wanted to grow professionally. I started working for startups and I wanted to continue that way. And I knew that London was the place for me to have that opportunity to grow. Especially I was working in sales and I just wanted to have that opportunity to work, especially within the UK market, because at the time I was mostly selling to the US market. But I wanted to have that opportunity to work within the UK market, to properly absorb the culture, the sales modus operandi, because of course it's different country by country. And I thought, okay, like that's my country. And of course, Brexit was going to happen and everything. So I was like, okay, it's either now or never. Then it's going to be harder for, a European passport holder. And I was like, okay, 2019, it's a make it or break it. And then eventually, I did not even apply for that job at that time. Somehow that opportunity came along. And on a trip that I was in London, somebody I knew, I was like, okay, I know this person looking for somebody with your profile. Would you be interested maybe in having a chat with this person? I was like, okay, let's go for it. So, I think once you put your mind into something, eventually, and once you start manifesting and visualizing that thing, eventually things happen. Of course, it's not just about, visualizing for the sake of it, but you need to take actions. And things happen then very randomly and very organically somehow.
Trusting the process.
Yes, exactly. And that was one of the biggest actually manifestation of trusting the process. Because I could not believe it. I was like, whoa, hold on. I made the decision of moving to London and I got a job offer without me even applying, without even me starting applying for jobs. It's how random is that?
So I've given enough plug to Plum already when we first started. So I'm not going to touch on your specific journey in the whole startup landscape, only because it's Plum. But talk to us a little bit more about your journey so far with Mint and Lemon, you starting a business. And I think it'll be interesting for people who are perhaps in that stage where maybe they think they want to do something and start something by themselves. So at a very early stage, so your mindset just before you started and now the recent times. So if you can start with that mindset just before you started, and because I think, like everything in life, that first step is mostly the hardest step. So talk me through that a little bit.
I think you're never prepared for entrepreneurship. Let's start that way. And I think you also prepared me a lot, telling me, it's going to be hard. So I was prepared, but you're never going to be prepared like fully. You told me so many times, it's going to be very hard. You're going to be crying. You're going to be, it's going to be painful. You're going to have more bad days than good days. But you're never prepared, really. So you started the thing as a bit of a honeymoon. So you start like everything, you start working on your logos, on your website and everything looks so shiny and everything nice. But then when the actual work comes in, then it's hard. Then it's so bloody hard. And I thought, so I had this idea of starting my own business. I was in between. I just needed a change. As we discussed, I just needed a change. I just needed something. But going to another corporate environment or work environment, even startup, just didn't feel right for me because I honestly had such a great environment as well at Plum. So I want either same or something greater. And it's hard sometimes to find something, Greater.
Actually impossible.
Impossible, of course. So And I was like, I always felt like, you know, doing something myself. So I was like, okay, why don't I start it? Like I was going back and forth. And I was like, okay, let's just start it. This I start, you know, registering the company on Companies House. Let's start like, you know, buying the domain, thinking about the name, buying the domain, creating the website. Let's start from the basic. Then eventually like it will grow in me. And I thought that maybe this could be like a side hustle. But then I decided to put all my eggs in one basket, which everyone is always suggesting you to not put your eggs in one basket. Everyone suggests me that. I'll be very honest. No, get a job 9 to 5 and then continue this on the side. And then eventually when it will grow enough, then you can go into it. I completely did whatever people say I should not because my gut was telling me that and I think you should always follow your gut. You're like, that's, you know, that's what really will take you places. And I always felt like, you know, like this is not a side gig. Like this should be like, if I don't give my whole self to this, I will never know how really it will be. Because if it will be like a side gig, it will always stay perhaps maybe as a side gig, and I will always be scared of making that jump of, you know, quitting my job because you have that paycheck. So I wanted to put myself in the most uncomfortable situation. Say, okay, I don't have a paycheck, so I just need to get starting like as of yesterday. And yeah, so I think I would just suggest people just get started. So if your gut is telling you that that's the right thing to do, just go for it. And sometimes you don't have an idea of what to do. And I always thought, okay, maybe we're going to start something, but I never had the idea of, okay, what can I start? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe a tech business or maybe that. But sometimes things are simpler than what you think. And sometimes one day really, I see, you know, there is this thing as of the insight. So you start thinking about this idea, but then you're not subconsciously you keep thinking about that idea, but not like really. You don't really think about that idea like, you know, every day. It's your subconscious that still keep elaborating that idea, and then one day you actually like, oh, hold on, maybe I could do that. And I think, but that process for me took me so many years in the making. And I think any entrepreneur like will actually take so many years in the making, because things are not just born like that. Maybe that day is born like that, but there is so much preparation behind whatever is your tears with that bad boss that you have, whatever is those so many hours and effort that you give to the company. And for me, especially actually working at Plum was like really that whole preparation for me, because it really helped me to understand how like an early stage startup function. And then when the early stage startup move into the scale up mode, and how to build everything from scratch. I never done it, but then I had the whole support system around me, which actually helped me so much. So that was the perfect preparation for me. And then I knew that, hold on, now I can do it. And whatever, what's the worst that can happen? I'll fail. Okay, so what? At least I will not have that regret that I've never done that. Like I always thought, like, not I always thought, but like from the past, you know, from when I first got this idea, I thought, okay, it's just immense. This is supposed to happen. It's supposed to start. So let's just get started. And then it got harder and harder because I didn't know it was that hard. And especially the loneliness. I think that what hit me the most, coming from that community, that like space where you have a team and being by yourself and doing everything and anything. And the hardship, the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster, and the fact that your brain cannot switch off because even at night, like you just constantly think about your baby because that's your baby and that's your lifeline. And it's not because of the monetary part. It's just because you want your baby to survive. You're kind of entering motherhood without being a mother for me yet, because you will never want that baby to die. You always want to help that baby to grow and to thrive. And that's why you're obsessed with a baby. And that maybe that obsessive behavior that I had in the past, unfortunately in a negative way, actually perhaps helped me to being obsessed in a good way with my own business, and helped me actually now growing my business. So yeah.
Do you think if you didn't have the hardships while you're growing up, you would have been able to operate the way you operate today? Or or have this kind of mindset now that you've started Mint and Lemon, or even started Mint and Lemon?
Yeah, perhaps no. Like perhaps if I would have had it like a bit easier or like more like a normal life, maybe I would have never. No. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that, because I know like, and sometimes you're grateful for you to feel pain. I think pain, like the feeling of pain that reminds you how human you are, and reminds you how, I can feel. You don't only feel joy, you feel that deep sense of pain, which there is also like a beauty in it somehow, which is very weird, but I believe there is a beauty in it, because it just reminds you how humane you are and how a human being you are. So yeah, 100%. I think it was pivotal then to where I am currently now.
Did you expect how difficult your entrepreneurship journey would be? Because I know you spoke about, thank you for giving plug to me and to Plum, even though I didn't ask for it, or maybe I did subconsciously again.
You can pay me later, it's okay.
Yeah, okay, yes, fine. We can talk about that again. Then my entrepreneurship brain is going to kick in, and then there's going to be a barter system there. But anyway, yeah, so, I could have said whatever I would have said, and, your entire life journey has brought you to where you are today. But how does one prepare for something like this? Or can you prepare for something like this?
I think you're never prepared. I think you just need to jump. Just having your mind that is hard, but you'll never know how hard is that. But you'll never be prepared. I think you just need to be prepared to jump and to just work hard. And that's it. Because you need to be prepared to not have weekends. You need to be prepared to not have a 9 to 5. You need to be prepared to not have friends, perhaps. You need to be prepared to maybe visiting your family less. You need to be prepared to that isolation and that that just work. Because again, it's your baby. So you need to give your whole self. That's the way you can prepare yourself. Anything else you learn along the way. And I'm very much learning. I'm still at the beginning of my journey. So I'm very much learning every day. And every day you learn something new. And every day you make a mistake and you're like, okay, now next time I shouldn't have done that. Maybe next time I should have done different. Okay, now I learned that. Now I know how it works. But it's beautiful because I was listening to something like a podcast, I think the other day, 2 different podcasts, and they were both talking about the flow state. How it's beautiful when you are in the flow state, which is you doing something that you're good at, but also being challenged on that thing. But being challenged should not be like a too mild of a challenge, because you're not going to be challenged enough, but it's not going to be also such a huge challenge, like let's say a Bill Gates challenge, or like, Jeff Bezos challenge, that it's impossible for you to embark that challenge. So you have to have that good level of challenge for you to do whatever you're good at, but also to grow within that role, to grow within that situation. And I think, like I was thinking about it, I think I am there because it's painful, but you love that pain. You love that I don't know, that emotional pain that you feel every single day. And you don't want to quit it. Like you just want to continue and just want to give it more and more and more and more and more and see how it grows and see the new challenges coming. So I feel maybe I did find now my flow state, perhaps.
And then keep increasing the challenges along the way. So I like to think of, life as a game. So, I started my entrepreneurial journey through online gaming, as you know, as well. So I just feel, every morning I wake up, I'm playing this game on this level, and then I die because it's so bloody difficult. But then now I know, what went wrong. So then the next day I play the same level, but then I succeed. Then I'm on that second level now. Then I die again because it's again, oh my God, it's so damn difficult. But then now I learned, and then I, keep on going. So I think it's interesting how, you are dying every single day, but then you're also learning through your failures, and then you're growing through the failures. But, let's get real. The reality is, after everything that you've said, it's still not, there's so many people who still want to do things like this, but starting is not easy. What do you think is needed for someone to actually start? Because I'm thinking, there has to be, not having a plan B, I think, in my opinion, it's super critical, especially if you're going to embark on this entrepreneurial journey. I've said this so many times to so many people that if I knew how difficult this space would be, I would have probably never started. I'm absolutely grateful I didn't know. And, I wouldn't change it or trade it for anything in the world. But I think that is one. But secondly, I think it's also difficult because you need to have, at the end of the day, there's livelihood. You need to eat food. You need to pay rent. So, a lot of people are perhaps stuck and they want to do something, but they can't. How do they start?
Yeah, that's hard, especially when you have, bills and rent and everything. I think you need to somehow provide for yourself in terms of, you can't just pretend that money will come from the sky. So understanding that even if you, do you have family supporting you? Do you have a partner supporting you? Do you have some savings? Do you have, you need to also be realistic. So you need to have a way to say, okay, maybe for the next 3 months, yes, I can survive somehow. Maybe I can have a side job, let's say, maybe you want to do like a couple of hours per day and do like a side job actually to get you some, revenue in, some income. But I think the most important thing is really believing in what you're doing, because if you're the first person not believing that this business will succeed, then of course the business will fail. And I think we had so many conversations, and I think you were actually the first person telling me that you need to absolutely believe and you need to absolutely be obsessed with your business, because if you don't believe in it, no one else will believe in it, because again, you're going to be the first salesperson of your business. And if you cannot sell your business to yourself, who can you sell it to? Like, you will never sell yourself, this is your product, you're to anyone else if you're not the first person believing in it. So I think, believing in it and really having like a sort of, not like a plan, but understanding that, you need to pay your rent. You need to pay your bills. Okay, can you downgrade? Okay, what can you do? Like, first thing when I started my business, I remove all my subscription, all my like things that are not needed. Okay. Like Amazon Prime, is it needed? Not really. My Spotify, is it needed? Not really. I'll listen to all the ads. Okay, interesting anyway. Or like just trying to understand what is the bare minimum that you can survive with until the first revenue comes in, but also understanding like what is your business plan, because nowadays, and we talk about it a lot, the whole startup world changed. Like you can't just wait for like 3 years in order to make money basically for the company. You need to start actually getting some sort of revenue as soon as possible. So what is your actually properly P&L? How does your P&L looks like? What is your business plan? And then following that, if you don't have a plan, then you shoot in the dark. Then you don't know. Then you cannot understand, okay, the expenses that you'll have, whatever is you might not need an office nowadays, but whatever is your, anything. Okay, do you need to contract somebody? Do you need to hire somebody on your payroll? Do you need to, how much everything will cost you? And then eventually adding that thing, what return on investment will give you. So having the whole plan and really being strategic and being down to earth, like, okay, you can't just be a dreamer. You need to be a realistic dreamer, basically, which is a paradox, I think. But that's how you should be operating in business. You need to still keep being that dreamer to push your business to different boundaries, but still be realistic and being really close to numbers. And that's, I think, the only way that will help you to succeed.
What's your why for Mint and Lemon? Because, we spoke about how difficult it is. And while you're talking, I'm like it's just reminding me of my journey and how difficult it is every single day. Even this podcast is difficult. Do you know what I mean? So because every single day you're trying to push boundaries and you're trying to learn something new. And as soon as you come out of your comfort zone, it gets challenging. And, human beings, we like to be comfortable. So there has to be a huge why. You also said, not necessarily, you didn't know you wanted to get into the recruitment space, perhaps. But what is your fundamental why? And what is that one driving force which keeps on making you go and push forward after everything that you're going through?
I think so. I knew my why from before, why I wanted to start the company. But I think my why then got manifested when I hear candidates on the phone either crying of joy and everything because they got that job. Because maybe that job is really their livelihood and they don't have any other source of income or any other help and they have a family to support and everything. So creating livelihoods for other people, it's my why. I don't create exactly, but I enable that relationship. And I think that's beautiful because I didn't realize that I actually had, I can do so much for people with the job I'm doing. And I think that came from my struggle of, the beginning of my career of like maybe not having the right CV as well, maybe not having the right CV in place, or maybe not having the right career suggestion in place. So even if a candidate might not be the right one, I still try to give some feedback to the candidate for the candidate to then find the next job. So there was a case of one person, for example, I knew that they had, I think, like a 7-page CV on a black background with like white typing and everything. Ooh. And it was cool actually, but it was very difficult to read. So I actually told that person, look, if you make it this way, it will actually give you much more chance for the reader to be much more simpler and everything. And she did it and she got like the interview right away, actually, then with the hiring manager. So, and eventually it might be for this role, might be for any other future roles, but I gave her something. I gave that person something. And I just want to give value to people, whatever is creating the livelihood for them or whatever is enabling them to actually have, some sort of plus, basically, some sort of better things in the future. And I call myself as the talent matchmaker because I like to match the right talents with the right companies. And I've been myself through the struggles of, unfortunately, not finding the right fit sometimes, for my teams and everything. And it's always a two ways. So it's never only the employer that has the power over that employee. It's a two way. So the employee needs to be happy with that company, and the company needs to be happy with that employee to find that right relationship, that right match. If it's not the right match, it's not only counterproductive for the employer because eventually it's money. They'll lose not just the salary but also the potential revenue, especially if you're in a sales department that person could actually bring in, could have potentially brought in. But also that person loses time, maybe jumping from job to job and everything, and not finding the right fit for them, not being happy with what they're doing and having that miserable 9 to 5 that at some point I had. And I was so unhappy and miserable with myself. And like, you need to have a meaningful job. You need to have something that will, take you out of bed in the morning and will get you excited and will get you pumped. And you're like, okay, it's going to be hard, but I love it. I love this hard. And you want people to have that type of job. And I want to be able to give those people that type of job, or whatever is for the clients I have, or whatever may be helping them somehow in the future for, through other, of course, recruitment agencies is fine, but at least giving them that little hint. But also I want to really work closely with startup and scale-ups because I believe, and we always talk about it, that like startup founders are the people that dare to dream and they change the world. So I always like, okay, how can I help somehow like people to, especially attracting the right talents is so pivotal to the journey of a startup and to their success. So how can I help those startups to get in the right, especially the first like core team members, getting the right people, those people that are going to be like me, maybe one day saying, hey, I was employee number 6. Hey, I was employee number 4. I'm so proud of saying I was employee number 6 at Plum. I'm so proud of it. And I would want those people to say the same one day, and helping those startup founders eventually to thrive and to, build that amazing team that will take them places. So that's the two things I had as my overall, inspiration and why of creating Mint and Lemon. And that's what took me here. And, again, it's painful, but I love it. So it gets me excited. It gets me out of bed in the morning saying, okay, what's the new challenge today? What's the new thing I have to do? And let's get it started.
It's so interesting you say that. It's a cliche to say that you're only as strong as your team, but it's also a fact. I mean, what is a company? A company is a collective of people. And only when you have the right set of people coming together, especially in the early days, that is really what makes or breaks the fortune of that company or that select group of people. So, if you're able to fill that role, those roles, the initial roles that are just absolutely pivotal. I know for a fact we wouldn't be here, Plum wouldn't be here really if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for the founding members of the team. And even now, when you look at the growth of the company, it's only because of the team members that we have. We're creating magic every single day is because we've got a team of magicians. It's just bloody fantastic. So I'm 100% I agree with you. It's a fantastic space to be in for someone like yourself. But it's also very interesting. It looks like you've also come full circle. You left Italy because you wanted to find a job. Your first space or the thing that you worked was an intern, no salary. And now you're in a space where you're actually providing that opportunity or the job spectrum to a lot of candidates. That's just amazing. Talk about, trusting the process and everything happens for a reason and whatever happens for your own good. That's just amazing.
I would have never thought about that, honestly. Never, ever.
That's just amazing. Going back to Mint and Lemon. The name Mint and Lemon and the meaning behind Mint and Lemon.
So, first of all, I wanted to keep the edible theme from Plum. I was like, okay, I want to give something like, fruit, food somehow. I wanted to give it a cool name. And what's cooler than mint, adding lemon also to it.
I love that.
But also, life gives you a lot of lemons. What do you do out of lemons? You do lemonades or limoncello or
limoncello first.
Limoncello first. So I was like, okay, let's, out of these struggles, let's add the lemon, let's add the mint that is cool. And then Mint and Lemon was born. And I wanted to give it like a cool name, like something that people will keep in mind and that doesn't sound like that, I don't know, maybe boring recruitment agency out there. I wanted something cool that transmit that like power of helping those young startups out there.
With a fresh twist.
Love that.
Yes. Love that. What would you want anyone listening to this podcast? What would you want them to take away from this podcast?
Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy in life. You might see people out there successful and everything. Oh my God, they have it all together. Probably not. Probably they've been through so many struggles. Nothing is easy. You choose your heart, and everything is still in your control because you can choose your heart. Everything is still in your control. So you want to flip your life when you're 20 or when you're 60 or when you're 80 or whatever, you can do that. It's never too late. Yeah.
Choose your heart. I love that. And life is all about perspective also.
Yes.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, Ellie? I know you're very active on socials. Where can people find you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So people can find me under my name, Elisabetta Torretti on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. I post very regularly. But you also can find my company on Mint and Lemon as well on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my main social media. Go find me there. Drop me a direct message as well if you listen to this podcast, and I'd be happy to have a chat with you.
Fantastic, Ellie. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's beautiful. And I'm sure you're going to be doing a lot more than you have already done on this planet. And you'll be changing not just your life, but many, 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 many other lives. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And hope you enjoyed as well.
Thank you for inviting me. Really, really appreciate being your guest. As you told me, I'll be hopefully changing many lives. I know you're already changing a lot of lives with the job that you're doing with Plum and with the whole team. I'm following your path as well. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.